on the podcast today, Perplexity. This is the company that if you know, you know, right? We've been chirping about this company for a year at this point, and especially now with Google sort of like having a few more missteps with their augmented search. So Perplexity is looking better and better these days. But the news out of Perplexity is really interesting over the last week. A couple of things. First of all, these things, Perplexity pages. I'm a paid subscriber, so I got an email about it. I've taken a little bit of a dive. It looks really cool. And then the huge valuation. But Jaden, one thing at a time. Have you seen Perplexity pages? I can't remember what you said about this.
Yeah. So I've been watching their demo. I've been checking it out. I think it's really interesting. But I have a couple, I don't know, thoughts on this, which I'll dive into. So essentially, what it allows you to do is you are like doing your normal ChatGPT kind of research thing, but you can go to a setting on the side of Perplexity where you say you're creating a page, and a page is essentially like a research document that's way more visually appealing. You can share this. I think this is kind of cool. It's essentially if you want to share like your research with someone else. And to be fair, I've done this with ChatGPT where I've like done some sort of research and they have a way to share the thread, and I share my like thread with someone like, oh, look at this interesting thing it said or did or I figured out, right? And you share that, but it's like then they got to go read through your whole conversation, and it's like your prompt and what it responded. And like honestly, people send these to me too. And it's just rough to read through like 5 pages of someone else's prompt and a little side conversation they had with it, and it's just like I'm like please, I just want like give me like the TLDR. Like that's what I use ChatGPT for anyways. I'm not using it to get Red's long thing. So I think in that sense they're really crushing it. They're making them really visually appealing. It's the same vibe feeling interfaces like Medium, which I for a long time loved. I used to write for Medium articles on Medium and got like tons of, it was like just a platform I don't know, you just like fall in love with platforms. Back in the day, it was Medium for me. I was writing Medium articles, I had thousands of readers and stuff. I got monetized on their thing. It was like a thing I thought I was going to do. Whatever. Anyways, so they're doing the same thing, and I love that about them. It's like really pretty.
The number of things that Jaden has stopped doing, we could make careers out of. Please continue.
Well, there's a good lesson in that I've stopped doing them, so I didn't make them into careers. So maybe just like keep going on whatever you're working on and don't quit and try 1,000 different things. But anyways, Perplexity is doing that, and they're doing it. It looks really pretty. My only thing here is like people are. I was reading an article about this on VentureBeat, and they're saying in their demo the problem was like it would generate. So for example, it generates like a paragraph about this article, and then you can get it to come up with search for, generate like an image you can embed, and then a quote, and it's like really pretty, but they said it wasn't editable, like the text it generated. And I'm not sure if that's because they don't want you to like edit it and be like, oh, look at this crazy thing Perplexity said, or if it's like they don't have the functionality. But like at the end of the day, I think it's kind of necessary because you might just want to rephrase something they say. So then it becomes like, what's the difference between just putting together your own Word doc and making it? I mean, their templates are pretty and nice and arguably better, but the third thing is, what's the difference between like most people doing this probably are trying to build a web page, right? So it sort of like replaces making a blog post on your own website, but it's like if you do that, then they get all the SEO and all the value out of it versus like you on your own website. So I'm just not sure what the adoption is going to be.
Well, so adoption is everything, Jaden, right? You and I talk about this all the time. This is my big thing too. It's like everything is adoption. If people don't adopt, then it doesn't matter. I could see a world, and I've looked at pages a little bit, and it sort of almost looks like a really awesome Wikipedia page or something, right? Yeah. Like it. But the cool thing about that, and that's why maybe there's an adoption play here, is I could imagine, I mean, in our little world, people getting totally obsessed with that. Instead of just sending somebody information, you run it through Perplexity, and all of a sudden it looks cool. It has like a banner on it, all that kind of stuff. Unless it like Notion does that to a certain extent. Notion has AI built in if you guys use Notion at all. And you can just like, I've actually accidentally clicked on like create a banner, and all of a sudden I'm like, what is happening right now? But it looks great. It looks like almost like one of these like one-page PDF things that you want to present to somebody. It's like, hey, here's my offering. And that is absolutely awesome. So hopefully it's not like weird mid-journey kind of stuff. And I know you can do this in Notion, but if more and more people are in Perplexity and doing it, I could sort of actually really see, I think I could see an adoption, or maybe, I don't know, maybe that's just because we're caught in this world that's super niche. But is that the point? Is the point, Jaden, in your mind, that like you create something and either you're using it for a Wikipedia thing or to put on a website or something like that, Or is it like, hey, you have this information and it's so appealing that you share with somebody else and be like, hey, I got this from Perplexity. And then that drives more traffic to Perplexity. Do you know what I mean? Like
I
it's almost
think
for that purpose.
I think that's what they want out of it.
Right.
There's like a couple things that I can see happening though. Is like if it becomes too easy to make these things, then something about like something being really easy to make drives the value of it down. And so
Yep.
I wonder if it gets to a point where like if I'm sharing like a Perplexity piece of content with you, you're like, oh, just a Perplexity thing, like you just made this. Whereas, or and even at work, right? Like you presented this to your boss at work, and they're like, oh, great, you used AI tools. It takes away some of the magic. Where if you like use AI tools, but you make your own document and you tweak it a little bit, whatever, right? And then you present it at work, and you're like, yeah, I made this thing, use some tools to help me, but like really workshopped it and made it my own and did this. Everyone's like, wow, praise Connor. He did this amazing
Yeah.
thing. It looks
Yep.
incredible and it sounds great. Whereas if it was on Perplexity, especially if they know you couldn't edit it on Perplexity, then it's like, this is straight AI generated. You read it to approve it. So I wonder if
Yeah.
it like devalues your work a little bit and it takes
Okay.
away.
Okay, I hear you, but like, but I think you're also talking from the standpoint of somebody who knows that this stuff exists. Like, I think that like this is
True.
a huge part of the population. I mean, my gosh, who was it? I'm trying to think of the study that just came out. It was Reuters and Oxford came out with this study, and this was not from so the Amazon, sorry, not Amazon, Microsoft and LinkedIn did that great work study around like who's using this, all that kind of stuff. But just a few days later, a few days ago, Reuters and Oxford came out with this study, and this was just interviewing schmoes from around the world, just people,
Yeah.
right? Not like knowledge workers, anything. And what they found out, and their sample size was pretty big, it was over 2,000 people. And they found out that 53% of Americans had heard of ChatGPT. So, I mean, like you're talking about a potentially huge subset of millions and millions of people who will be extremely easy to impress if you just say, hey, I know you wanted that information. Here it is. I don't know if they'll be asking that. I think you're right. At some point, people say, "Oh, this is AI generated," or like you have somebody with like 7 fingers, and they're like, "This is clearly AI generated." But it may be just like, especially if it's clean and looks good, it's the kind of thing that I would struggle on in like Adobe, being like, "How do I put a banner up here? I can't get the formatting right." All that,
True.
and if I can just
True.
click my fingers, this, and we're talking about AI applied, maybe it's the kind of thing like you just create it and you show it to your boss. So maybe the lesson here, but tell me if you disagree, lesson here is like, guys, go on Perplexity, just try it with anything, see how easy, test out how easy it is for you, and if it's easy, great. If it's not, disregard. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think okay, so I think you have some great points, which are not everyone knows about this, and also Perplexity is not even ChatGPT, so there's like even less people that know even what that is. So
Right.
if someone were to send you a Perplexity link and you weren't like a user, you'd just be like, okay, cool, this is a great looking piece of content. Second thing is the making something look pretty is like honestly the entire value add of like a Medium article, in my opinion, and they're doing this really well. I'm a very technical person. I'm a very design oriented person, but if I have to make a document from scratch, it looks ugly. I always have to use a template, right? I'm not going to like, even on like Google Docs, I'm like, I couldn't, just make this amazing thing from scratch, and it lets you do it so fast. So I see massive value there. I think if they want mainstream adoption, if they really want this to grow, they're going to have to let you edit it. So they're
Yeah.
essentially going to compete with Google Docs, and it's like
Yeah.
pretty templates generated by AI. And I think that's amazing. I actually, that would warm my soul to no end for Perplexity, not just to compete with like Google search, but then like Google Docs, and essentially do what Google's
Yeah.
doing, right? Google's embedding AI into Docs and AI into Sheets, but it's like just coming from like the other end, like from the search side to the like the workspace side. I think that'd be amazing.
Okay, so I'm with you. So you're right about very few people hearing about Perplexity, but then you're right. What if it's like you figure out, hey, here's like how you install a lamppost or something like that, and then over on the side, if you know Perplexity, there's a lot of white space over on the side, and now they're starting to put like YouTube videos that would be relevant to your search, and they just like fling up that page, and it's like, how about this? And it's like a standard operating procedure or whatever on like whatever you just did, even if it's not editable, you can't edit it. It's still like one of these things where it's like, wow, that looks kind of awesome, and you just kind of grab it, and then you're in there all the time. But yeah, if they can edit and compete with Google Docs, can I just segue from that into this valuation? I mean, I just want to
Yeah,
kind of
this
think
is
about
the
this for a
this is the
second, because
elephant in the room right now.
like they just like, it looks like they're raising $250 million to get a valuation between 2.5 and 3 billion. Guys, earlier this year, the valuation was, I think, Jane, do I have this right? I think it was 1 billion. I mean,
And we were like, oh my gosh, they
how was
did
it a
it.
billion? How is it a unicorn? Because here's the thing. Is this just like some glorified API wrapper that, Google is going to trample? Gene, you and I were talking offline before this. You had some interesting thoughts about like this is getting so good that it actually might be able to compete, even if it's just a small margin. But you don't need a big margin; you just need sort of like a few percentage points. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, 100%. I think whenever anyone's like, oh, glorified rapper, blah, 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 whatever, I don't care. They have the
Right,
users and
right,
people love it and people love the experience and they're willing to pay for it and they're raving about it and they're pushing the whole market forward in the direction of their vision. So I guess the real thing is they have the vision. Google might have the users and have a lot of amazing tech, but does Google really have the vision? That's the question you have to ask. Does Apple have the vision without Steve Jobs? Was Steve Jobs their vision and Tim Cook is an incredible operator,
right.
producer? But does he lack vision? This is a question I think you have to ask when you're looking at where the company goes long term. Is Jensen Huang from NVIDIA, is he the vision, right? Like he's,
Yeah,
the OG. So it's really who has the vision. I think Perplexity is a company with a vision and they're doing amazing things. I've been really impressed and pleasantly surprised. And I think that even if Google clones them, people will
yeah,
still prefer Perplexity because of the vision. And like when you clone someone, you're typically always a couple steps behind them. So like whoever's making the true innovation seems like the most impressive thing. And a good example is just ChatGPT. Everyone's cloning ChatGPT, it would seem. And when I say cloning, like
yeah,
everyone's trying to compete and make LLMs because of how popular it is. But like ChatGPT is always a step ahead with, okay, now we're going to do Sora, now we're going to do this next thing. And so it's hard
yep,
for people to keep up. And you feel like ChatGPT OpenAI is like really the innovator here. And I
yep.
feel like Perplexity has a lot of that. So I think even with massive billion-dollar monopoly incumbents, or I guess monopolies, there's room for these kind of
Yeah,
incumbents.
so I totally agree. I keep thinking Perplexity is going to get steamrolled, but you're right. They're leading the charge right now. Super impressed. Okay, listen. Here's the lesson from AI applied today, guys. If you have not tried Perplexity, try it. If your friends haven't tried it, show them. You owe it to the planet to do this. There is a free version, but I would potentially recommend at least try it out for a month. By the way, if you bought one of those stupid rabbits, sorry, you have it for a year anyway. But here's the most important thing, guys. If you enjoyed this, I know it's such a pain in the butt to leave a review. If you'd consider it, it would be amazing. I'm now starting to smell 100 reviews, Jaden. And if we can sort of like get that, oh my gosh, I don't even know what I'll do on this podcast. Like we'll do something to celebrate. If we get 100 reviews, I promise, and I promise it'll be worth your time, whatever it is. But if you guys can get us there, it would be phenomenal. I know there's enough of you listening. Thank you so much. Have an amazing rest of your day.